Hey, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Cyber Coast to Coast. This is one of your hosts, Scott Schober, coming from Berkeley Varitronic Systems headquarters in Metuchen, New Jersey. And I am joined here with my partner and brother in crime, Craig Schober. How you doing there, Craig?
I'm good, Scott. Still here in Tamarindo, the rainy season, Costa Rica, on another coast in Central America. But through the magic of the internet, we're talking today.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, we are, interestingly enough, I don't know if you check the weather up here much, but it's got to be in the 80s today and exceptionally humid. And I think we're probably very close to your temperature and humidity level. Maybe not the same, but it sure does feel like Costa Rica outside when I went out a little while ago.
Let me see, 84 degrees. And what is we the rains already came today and gone, so they're not coming back. Still humid though. I'm looking for the humidity, 78% humidity right now. So
Wow.
pretty
Yeah,
hot.
that's pretty close. We are technically the weather here, it pulls up New York, but it's 83 degrees that I'm seeing right now. Um, and zero chance of precipitation. So yeah, it's beautiful day out there, but it does feel very humid to me. But let's get right into our stories. There's three great stories that we're going to cover today. And the first one is coming from Tech Radar, and it talks about CrowdStrike acquires, and I don't know how to pronounce that properly, Pangea, and pushes further into AI security. And AI is all the buzz, especially tied with cybersecurity. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and get a few takeaways and some comments and maybe a couple things that we can discuss there. The next one is Netscope IPO signal strength and SASE and cloud security. That one's coming from Reuters. So we'll talk a little bit more about secure access service edge, SASE provider, Netscope. And third story is coming from Hacker News. Critical vulnerabilities in botnet proxy threats escalate. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, and get some of your thoughts as well on this. And of course, we encourage everybody, if you have a moment, please give us a like, give us a subscribe to this podcast if you're not already doing so. And certainly feel free to give comments because we greatly appreciate that. Anybody that does share any comments, or if you ask a question and we read it on our podcast, we will actually send you a signed copy of one of our books. And that's either Hacked Again, Cybersecurity is Everybody's Business, or Senior Cyber. And stay tuned for our new book coming out, Stolen Plastic, that hopefully will be out next year. So we'll keep the teasers out on that and let you know as we get closer to it. But let's dive right in. And I should make another comment. This podcast is also now, we're kind of excited that we're also going to be featured on connectedvoices.ai. And I have the privilege of joining this new group, and I'm on the editorial advisory board for Connected Voices. It's really powered by Peggy Smedley, and it's a very interesting website that features a lot of key niche podcasts and technology on AI, cybersecurity, and many different things there tied to technology. So if you haven't had a chance to join that group there and check it out, go visit the website. I encourage you, connectedvoices.ai. And there's some great podcasts that are featured there, including Cyber Coast to Coast. So we want to do a shout out and thanks to Peggy and a lot of the other great podcasts that are there. And I'm just going to just mention a few of them so you could check them out. Dr. Zero Trust, Chase Cunningham, Cloud Computing Insider, host looks like David Linthicum. And of course, Peggy Smedley Show, hosted by Peggy Smedley, Clear Tech Loop, Joe Peterson, The Story of Industrial America, Jim Kasani, What's Up with Tech, Yvonne Kurstil, Sustainable Supply Chain, Tom Rafferty, 2020-ish, Michael Matheson and Luke Jamieson. And of course, ours mentioned there, Cyber Coast to Coast, Craig and Scott Schober, the Shipping Podcast, Lena Gothberg, Learning and Missteps, Jesse Hernandez, IoT Coffee Talk, Rob Tiffany, Climate Confident, Tom Rafferty, Dave is Not AI, David Linnicum, Next Curve, Leonard Lee, Construction Champions, Ron Nussbaum, Noob School, John Sterling is the host, and Activating Curiosity, Ryan Ware. Those are some featured podcasts that are up there right now, again, on Connected Voices platforms. We really encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, this all happened so fast. I haven't had a chance to check any of those out yet.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna give a listen, a few subscribes, and then maybe in the coming weeks or months, we could feature a few, mention a few as soon as I get caught up to speed on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great. And some of them I already started listening to because these are colleagues and people that I've met. Some of them I've interviewed in the past on another podcast that we've done there. What keeps you up at night? So I encourage you to take a listen because there's some really great content there. And again, thanks to Peggy Smedley and her team for all that they're doing on connectedvoices.ai. So this first story here about CrowdStrike's acquisition there, getting into really AI security. And I think, first of all, everybody probably by now in the world of cybersecurity knows CrowdStrike. I think they got 125 billion market capitalization, and they're known in a couple different areas. The three areas that, as I was doing research on this story, they're a leader in endpoint and cloud security, AI driven threat detection, and high growth cybersecurity company that was founded back in I think 2011, and then 2019 CrowdStrike went public. Their Nasdaq trading symbol is CRWD, and they've just grown like crazy. And Pangea for AI driven security, and that's kind of what we're going to be chatting about here a little bit. And it mentions they bought it for. Did you notice that, Craig? $260 million,
Mhm.
which is a lot of money in a general sense, perhaps not that much for CrowdStrike, again, being a public pump company and $125 billion market capitalization. They are the Goliath, I guess you could say there for sure. And Pangea's a specialty, and the story brings out here in Tech Radar, they guard interaction channels between AI systems and users, especially against prompt injection attacks. And CrowdStrike also introduced AgentWorks, which lets customers build custom AI security agents. And the focus of the article really helped us to appreciate how rapidly cybersecurity industry is adapting to generative AI risks, shadow AI, employees or use cases that fly under the radar or formal policy. It's becoming a known blind spot. So we appreciate this. This really matters because AI is everywhere. Every company now out there is being encouraged use AI, work with other AI third parties, and instantly, my opinion is this opens up all new areas to be exposed in the world of cybersecurity because AI could be used and misused to exploit vulnerabilities in companies, and they don't even realize it yet. So it's something that's going to explode, I think, and continue to explode. Who is not experimenting with AI tools? And shadow AI could lead or to data leaks or manipulated outputs that impact different business decisions. And I think when we talk about preventative measures, when you stories like this, it's really important, I think, for enterprises to implement AI policies, AI use policies early on before they dive right into AI, and even monitoring API access, training employees. We always talk about the importance of cybersecurity training, but even these different AI models, it's important. And this acquisition here that they're talking about kind of highlights that traditional endpoint security leaders they want to own the space, and AI security space is so pivotal and important, especially tied closely to these cybersecurity companies. So I think what's going to happen is, as usual, there's going to be a ton of overlapping. There's going to be a lot of vendors offering the same thing or very similar types of things quickly, and it's going to just take time and effort, I think, for some consolidation and understanding in the long run for things like this. I don't know if you had anything further to add to this, but it was more of a kind of headlines announcement that CrowdStrike is kind of taking the lead here with this acquisition, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer these days. Security, AI, I think the two are hand in hand. What
Yeah.
jumped out at me a little more I guess is the, I don't know, the economic angle. I figure when a company, a publicly traded company this big like CrowdStrike announces an acquisition, and yeah, $260 million for Pangea. It's a lot of money, but I bet you they make that in one day just on the trading for,
Yeah.
the fervor and excitement on the market. People see they're making moves, they're doing, mergers and acquisitions, and to some extent, all of our stories today cover that. And I think
Mhm.
we're going to see a trend. I'm guessing next 6 months, a year, there's going to be a ton of these, not just in security space, but in media spaces and all types of industries. We're going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions because what's happening? The government is hands off. The FTC, the DOJ, all these like institutions that normally look at these things and scrutinize them, I think they're backing off. They're saying let them do whatever, so long as it doesn't make
Yeah.
Trump look bad. Let them do whatever they want to do. And so we're going to see a ton of people jumping into this. Um, Market's going to shoot up. Everything is going to look good, but of course, everything has a price to pay, and uh, a lack of restrictions or regulations will come to bite us in the butt eventually, also.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for now, I'm seeing this as a trend that's only going to continue for a while.
Yeah. I was listening to a program the other day. I think this was on Bloomberg Radio on my commute in. And I was kind of fascinated. They were talking about how AI is now affecting so many companies, not just now, but it will affect in the future. And they drew a corollary to really the internet, how the internet changed the way companies work. They said they believe AI will change the way companies work and productivity and profitability more than the internet
Mhm.
effect, which is pretty powerful. Obviously,
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're appreciating the internet. Our business changed years back. We were one of the earlier ones. I think you were helped pioneer a website back way back decades ago when nobody even was had websites. We were up so early. Um, and we saw how it changed the way business works and how it to gather information and search engines and so on and so forth. Our world has changed. When we want to buy something, we do the research, we pull our phone out, we get on the internet. I'm
Mhm.
curious the effects that AI will have. And we're not just talking, when we say AI, a lot of people just think like chat GPT and it stops right there. It's more than just interacting with a chat bot and things like that. It's the way we live our lives, the way we buy things, the way we shop, the way we think about things, the way we research, the way that we structure a company and keep it organized. All of that's going to be changing greatly. So
Yeah.
exciting things ahead, I say.
I think we're seeing our brains being rewired in real time. You
Yeah,
know, this is an accelerating process.
true.
What was the semiconductors, or what, 75 years old? I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
Then we had the personal computer about 45 years ago. Those are big chunks. That's a generation and a half between those things. And then suddenly though we hit internet, and then right after that, mobile phones, smartphones, and now AI. And those are kind of truncated. Those are compressed. And we're seeing like major revolutions less than a generation, 5, 10 years. So
mhm.
I think we're going to see the acceleration of AI into crazy things we couldn't anticipate or imagine, and it's got to take our brains along for the ride with it, and it's adapt or die. So
Yeah, that's true.
there's gonna be a lot of people that are going to be displaced in society through various ways, whether it's joblessness or just not socially connecting anymore, because the primary means is going to be technology to do everything, like just
Yeah,
literally everything. If you're a technophobe, you're going to be left completely out of the picture soon.
yeah, that's so true. And it's probably maybe we see that or we joked around with people that and in fact the radio program I just referred to, I think they mentioned this morning that one of the people, what did you think? They said to him, and they're like, wait a minute, you still have an old flip phone. And they were all chuckling because there are some people that get left behind a generation or a decade behind in technology. And that, nope, I'm happy with my flip phone. I'm not buying the latest, whatever, iPhone 17 or earbuds or whatever the technology is. And they're the same people that aren't using AI. There's a percentage of people that probably will never use AI and don't want to learn about it, don't care because it doesn't affect their lives or they don't want it to affect their lives for whatever reason. And that's fine. I respect that. Um, but at the same point, I think it's going to be difficult for a modern job not to understand how AI can help improve productivity and profitability in a business. And it's important that they, everybody just keep that in mind. It can't hurt you. I think we mentioned the other week, even there's universities are now offering AI courses. And I think the implications of AI, when I look at it from cybersecurity, from wireless perspective, you mentioned mobile phones, it is all interconnected because I think they've pushed the limit of mobile phones, for example. How many new iPhone models can they come out with? And they tweak it 1% better, bigger screen, or battery lasts 3 times longer, or something. They're very small incremental improvements. And maybe the camera systems and some of the software on there gets better, the processing gets better. However, now I think about it and I say, wait a second, it's like a clean slate. Now, when you add the AI component into it, it's exciting. If they come out with exciting AI related apps and tools that are more productive, that require a better hardware engine, of course I'd trade my iPhone in tomorrow and get a better iPhone. And everybody else would too. What does that do? That just, launches Apple's iPhone or whatever the phone manufacturer happens to be, because of the demand is suddenly out there, because now there's a need associated to it because of the, power hungry AI, what's needed. So I do think it's going to affect computers, technology, phones, everything as we know it, because there's going to be a need for everything more. Not to even mention infrastructure. I mean, you could talk about electricity and the demand for electricity and how
Yeah.
that intertwines and affects everything else. It's a powerful disruptor, let's say, across the board. Now, this next story comes from Reuters. We mentioned Netscope IPO signals strength in the secure access service edge provider and cloud security. So let's talk about that for a moment. And again, this is a very high priced IPO aiming, did you notice, approximately 900 million plus dollars, valuation of 7.3 billion, since their services are so strong. Now, I have to say, when you look at a cybersecurity company such as this, 2024 into 2025, I thought some of the IPOs were a little softer. News has gotten a little quieter, hesitation between politics, economy, wars, all those other things. There's I guess, some caution there. This sets the stage for a serious price range for an IPO. What are your thoughts on that when you think about that amount of money that's put out there for an IPO?
Yeah, it underlines what we were talking about in the first story. I think the stage is set for some big acquisitions and some big IPOs,
Yeah.
and startups following along there. So that next year there's probably going to be more IPOs and for bigger. I mean, what is the is what is that rating again? Isn't billion and more supposed to be the unicorn or something they call it? And
Yeah, I think so.
so so this is kind of flirting with that, which for
Yep.
any startup, or regardless of how long they've been around, when you raise IPO, anything when you're shooting for a billion or more, that's huge. You're in a
Oh
league
yeah.
of your own.
Yeah, yeah, I think you make a good point there, and it gets attention. Well, we to talk about attention, and we're talking about it. I honestly have never heard of this company before this.
No.
Um, Now we're talking about it, and all of our listeners, which is a pretty big audience out there now. This podcast is growing, and we thank our listeners. And again, as a reminder, hit us the like, subscribe, give us your feedback and comments, because that really helps us shape each episode each week. Now, thinking about this Netscope IPO, it helps us, I think, to appreciate, just digging down a little bit more. Organizations are moving their applications, their workloads, even confidential, classified, sensitive data to the cloud faster than ever. I think there has always been a hesitation move stuff to the cloud. Um, but as this, changes, and these cloud security companies provide more security and more confidence, and people look at it and say, "Wow, I can save a significant amount of money if I migrate to the cloud and my data is still secure? It's a nice answer to several different problems, I think. So, um,
Yeah, I think
adopting
it's
this,
also about faster growth too.
yeah,
With the
yeah,
cloud, I mean, like, look at
boom,
something like a Blockbuster video back, most people who listen to this don't even know what that is probably. When you have physical shelves and physical inventory and people come in, you're limited by that. And so what happens? You have Netflix model, which is now it's mail-in DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
But you still have that physical model and you're still delivering physical atoms to other physical spaces, and you're relying on the postal system and all these logistics. Cloud, it's very, it is technically complicated, but you cannot scale a worldwide distribution without something like cloud, where you're just sending bits and bytes at the speed of light all over the world. It's just
yeah,
physics at that point, I think, and that's very attractive to any business that says, "Hey, we can quadruple our customer base in 1 quarter. Why not flip the switch?"
yeah, yeah. And I think it's now, I call it kind of a mindset, cloud first security mindset. That's now, it's gone over that hump where people now have accepted it. They're encrypting data in motion, data at rest. They have this, the enforcement of a zero trust network access. They're regularly auditing the different cloud configurations. So I think all of those things have now gone mainstream, and companies can now accept it. I notice, I don't know about yourself, but I've gotten solicited multiple times here at Berkeley. I hear it on the radio all the time about Oracle, their big shift to the cloud. So large tech companies are heavily, heavily investing in the cloud infrastructure. And I know Oracle, I mean, that their stock has been exploding recently, and many other large cloud providers, because they've learned how not just to do it successfully in the cloud, but helping their customers do it securely. And once you cross that threshold, the sky's the limit. And then couple in what we're talking about with AI and this huge demand for data. It's just a win-win-win for these cloud providers, I think. And I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. As this unfolds in the coming years, it's really going to explode, and we're going to see the bigger picture, how it affects our lives. It's pretty exciting times ahead.
Yep,
All right.
agree.
Well, let's shift over to the hacker news. Our third story here: critical vulnerabilities in botnet and proxy threats escalate. And the story here mentions in Hacker News there several serious vulnerabilities and malicious infrastructure developments came to light this week. A CVSS 10, which is the highest severity of a 0-day vulnerability in GoAnywhere managed file transfer software, could allow arbitrary command execution. Vulnerabilities in Novacon, human machine interfaces that allow remote code execution and info exposure, and a threat actor network using systems BC malware to power a REM proxy botnet, and some 1,500 VPS victims daily using dozens of command and control servers. Well, what are we talking about when we look at all of this? What are some of the risks maybe that are posed by this, Craig? Any thoughts on this when we talk about these botnets and how they're being utilized for really hacking?
I guess I would break it down to kind of the idiom like great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Botnets are uh, very powerful. I mean, I think people until now and maybe into the near future a little bit, they're still kind of the butt of a joke for a lot of
Hmm.
security people and maybe regular folks too, because people look at bots and chat bots and those type of things as almost like a spruced up phone tree that when you
Yeah.
call to get a service done on your phone or something, and they step you through all these menus and all that kind of stuff. And I've had my experience with bots have been they are pretty dumb, not intuitive. But however, I've had some decent experiences through WhatsApp. And if you call ChatGPT a bot, of sorts, it's sort of a multi-purpose, bot in that sense. They've impressed me recently. So I think we're turning a corner here, and I think they're going to become even more powerful. And going back to what I said, when you can't secure that power, suddenly it means people are reliant on these bots for all different types of things, whether it's in the kind of the front end or the back end, but they're relying on them. And if data is not secured because of things aren't patched, vulnerabilities exist, you're looking for trouble. Uh, yeah, I don't know what else to I don't know what else to make of it. I mean, there's a lot of acronyms, a lot of hype, a lot of terminology in this story. Half of the
Yeah.
stuff I'd never really even heard of. So
Yeah.
it's even hard to say.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing, I think you're right too, because some of this is really tied to I was doing a little research on it, and I guess you could say in one of the articles I read, they mentioned old plumbing. A lot of people exploit old plumbing, which is a nice way of saying they're not going after the fancy AI systems and the high tech things and break encryption and all these other things. They're going after critical infrastructure. They're going after healthcare and the manufacturing sector, the government, where the same old problems exist. They're not patching software enough. They're not using multi-factor authentication in all cases. So they're really using kind of modern botnets, but not that sophisticated, to initiate attacks on older critical infrastructure and things that are still not updated and broken and so on and so forth, which leads me to mention maybe the more important thing for our listeners is, well, if you're part of that, if you're working in the healthcare field or manufacturing or government or whatever, it's important to relay to your cybersecurity teams, your third parties, your IT teams that prevention is required by doing a multi-layered approach. You want to have timely patches, as we talk about all the time. Segmentation throughout the network, very important to stop these attacks. Um, Having the right tools and technology in place, and start out slow and build from there. Keep growing your arsenal of tools, and your team to fight off these attacks will actually start to make a difference there. And if you don't, the same old thing's just going to keep happening. I think the problem is with a lot of infrastructure is it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't touch it because you might break something. And I can understand that maybe mentality, because you hate to disrupt productivity and things. But once you take that leap of faith, you notice productivity increases and you feel better. Maybe I'll give a crazy analogy. It's not exactly fitting, but we had a compressor that was here in the company for decades that's used in our machine shop. But we also have a line that goes over to our production team for blowing things off and cleaning and this and that. So maybe we've got half a dozen different airlines going to different places throughout the building, but that need is always increasing as we grow and new machines and things get more and more automated. Our compressor was making some noise, and it was time to update the compressor. We worked on it, fixed it, and got it to be better and quieter. But in the process of it, doing the research, I said, wow, here's a really incredible compressor from Haas, and it's automated, and you put scheduling in there so it could turn on and off. But more importantly, you had an air dryer to get the moisture out and the oiliness in the lines, to keep our investment, our CNC machines running properly. So we upgraded, and it took some time and effort and everything else. And we just finished it today, and we're running 100% back to productivity. But until we made the switch and disconnected the one from power and airlines, and physically get it up and out of the way and put the new system in, we kind of got through it and chugged along and patched and repaired and things like that, but it wasn't at maximum efficiency, and it didn't look pretty. Now things look pretty. It's cleaner, better, faster, more efficient, cleaner air, longevity of machines. But it was the investment into it. Once you got over that hurdle, I look back and say, why didn't we do this sooner? Yeah, it was investment time and money and everything else, but it improves the work environment. And the same thing, I think, when you look at older infrastructure within companies, it's hard to take that leap of faith to say, what's the future going to be? Invest in technology, invest in policies and procedures to improve cybersecurity and integration of AI and different types of modifications to workflows. Once you step over that hump, though, you see the difference. And I think that's what I'm trying to say is you appreciate the efficiencies, the profitability, you appreciate improvements in your organization also by staff seeing improvements. So if you're working in that same old, maybe it's a water treatment facility and you're running old, infrastructure and you have to punch it every once in a while or kick it to get it to run. And you're buying expensive components to physically repair things within the system, solenoids and SCADA systems and things like that. And you could start modifying things and work over to more modern things that can be more cyber secure. You start to notice improvements in efficiencies. Maybe it's less manpower needed. Maybe things are up and running for maintenance much quicker now. It doesn't not as much downtime. So until you migrate over, you're not going to appreciate the savings, I think, there. So
Yeah, I think your compressor example couldn't be more analog, but that
yes,
doesn't mean it's not a perfect example because we saw a story just like this in our last episode. It was a kind of a spin-off of the Mirai bot network, and and there was another warning about that. And so I don't think we're going to see a shortage of these stories in the coming months as well about old infrastructure being exploited and used to create whether it's a bot army or whatever you want to call it, a mass of devices used to steal data and wreak havoc. There's not going to be a shortage of that because, like you said, old infrastructure is there for a reason. People don't want to, if it's not broke, don't touch it if it's not broke. Um, and so it's going to be around a long time.
yeah, I think so. And yeah, I was trying to find that obscure thing that we could relate to old plumbing and air compressor and things like that. And you're right, it is kind of analog, but so is most of the critical infrastructure throughout the United States. I think it's changing surprisingly though with the energy grid upgrades, the infrastructure with bridges and tunnels. There's mass amounts of infrastructure that's now being finally updated and fixed, in part because of a change in political regime, but I think also in part because everything's falling apart and it's so broken some things and it's so old that it's time to get things updated. So it's a nice positive change starting to happen.
Yeah, nothing better than when you're forced to fix something because it's broken, then you got to you have to do it the right way. There's no
Yeah,
choice. Whereas if you're just putting band-aids on things that are leaking, you can get away with that for only so long.
exactly. Great. Well, that again, in summary, we had a nice discussion there about CrowdStrike acquiring Pangea. Then we chatted a little bit about Netscope's IPO, close to pushing that $1 billion market there, and the cloud security and cybersecurity, some of the great stuff that they're involved in there, and then some of these botnets and the different threats to some older infrastructure and old school versus maybe new school. And we chatted a lot about AI, and I think probably as we continue on in our podcast, AI is always going to be coming up. Cybersecurity and AI, they kind of go hand in hand now. And AI along with everything when we think about it. So certainly love to hear your thoughts. Again, please give us the likes, subscribe to our podcast, give us any feedback and comments. We greatly appreciate it. And feel free to reach out to us on any of the social media platforms. I'm very active on LinkedIn, certainly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all these platforms, and check out the other podcasts on connectedvoices.ai. Again, I encourage you to take a look there and subscribe to some of those other great podcasts because some of those colleagues that I have are doing some great stuff. And please give some feedback too, because certainly being on the editorial advisory board, I'm going to help shape maybe some of the content of Connected Voices AI, not just our podcast, but some of the other podcasts that we're going to be adding there. It's going to really be a great repository of areas to go to get niche focused content. And I think that's what's really important. In the world of podcasts, there are so many of them out there, and there are a lot of great podcasts across the board. But when you want to really hone in and listen to some niche ones, check out connectedvoices.ai. I can't say enough about some of the great stuff that they're doing, and Peggy Smedley and her team behind it. So again, I wanted to take a moment to certainly thank everybody for tuning in, and just to give a quick rundown, if I can, some of the updates. Next week, I'm going to be out in Hershey, PA, at the IAATI. It's about a vehicle automotive conference for stolen vehicles, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about how tags are often used in stolen vehicles, and some of the tools that recently have been praised, some of the tools that Berkeley has designed, Blue Sleuth Pro and Blue Sleuth Lite, being extensively used by law enforcement in a couple different agencies. I'll be talking about out in Hershey, PA there on next Thursday, which is the 25th in the afternoon. And of course, we're going to have a little exhibit there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Our team will be out there showcasing some of our products as well, answering questions. If you happen to be out in Hershey, PA, or look it up again, that's the IAATI show, vehicle conference, their stolen vehicle conference. Very interesting stuff. October 6th and 7th, I'm going to also be out at down in Virginia at the Espionage Research International Conference. I'll be presenting there as well on two different topics. One is that of Wi-Fi direction finding with the launch of our new product, the Yellow Jacket Ultra, which is really focused on finding rogue APs, but also clients. So hunting down mobile phones that have Wi-Fi enabled. The clients, it's very popular for securing facilities. And I'll also be talking about our new bad USB cable tester, which is called the Wire Badger. And I'm going to be sharing that with the espionage research community there, because certainly bad USB cables are very, very important threat that needs to be identified and removed, especially for pen testers and technical surveillance countermeasure experts, which is primarily the group down there at Espionage Research in Virginia. And then finally, in November, the 13th and 14th, I'm going to be presenting on the future of skimmers, and the future, really more importantly, shimmers, which steal chip and pin and EMV cards. So when you stick your card and dip it in the front of a point of sale terminal, your credit card, be careful, because now there are shimmers that can steal that chip information, and they can burn fresh cards and go shopping on your nickel. So we've developed a tool called the Shimmer Shield, and that more information will be coming shortly on that as we speed up our development and launch of that product very soon in the not too distant future. So that's it for now. So I'm going to be signing off here from Metuchen, New Jersey at Berkeley Varitronic Systems headquarters. I'm Scott Schober.
And I'm Craig Schober, signing off from Tamarindo in Costa Rica. Everybody, stay safe.
Yeah, stay safe. Until next week, we'll talk to you soon.
Cyber coast to coast with your hosts Scott and Craig Schober.